meeting is web streamed on Parliament's website, and we have interpretation in 18 languages. So German, English, French, Italian, Dutch, Greek, Spanish, Portuguese, Finnish, Czech, Estonian, Lithuanian, Hungarian, Maltese, Polish, Slovak, Romanian, and Croatian. I hope you will find the one that suits you best. So let's get started. So it is really a great honor to welcome you all to the European Parliament for this important joint event on affordable housing, addressing the housing crisis in the Union. Let me begin by thanking the European Commission, especially Commissioner Dan Jørgensen, and also the head of the European Commission's Housing Task Force, Matthew Baldwin, for co-organizing this event with us. I would also like to warmly thank our distinguished panelists for their presence and contributions today, and of course, a great thank you to all of you in the audience, whether you represent institutions, civil society, or local communities. Your presence is a powerful reminder that this issue touches all parts of our society. So we are gathered here because we all recognize a growing and pressing challenge, a housing crisis across the European Union. Housing affordability is increasingly becoming a key driver of social and economic inequality. Home ownership, once an attainable goal for many, is turning into an intergenerational privilege. At the same time, rent burdens for lower-income households continue to rise, exacerbating social divides and limiting disposable income for consumption and investment. When housing costs consume a disproportionate share of household budgets, people are left with fewer opportunities to invest in education, in their well-being, or even in basic financial security. But the housing crisis we face today is not just a matter of social policy and social justice, it is also a fundamental economic challenge. High housing costs are limiting labor mobility, particularly for younger workers and those in lower income brackets, and it's making it difficult for local authorities or companies to attract and retain workers, simply because in certain cities, medium-low salaries are not enough to even pay for rent. So this is a major obstacle to economic growth and productivity. So understanding the roots of this phenomenon, it's not easy. There are multiple causes, sometimes deeply intertwined, but this is where our journey starts. This is our goal. There are many aspects. The evolution of the demand is a part of the problem, as new markets, such as tourism or, as I said, labor mobility, students' mobility, have entered the residential home market using a chunk of the existing supply, or as residential real estate has increasingly turned to a mere investment asset, and we see increasing number of units that are built or left empty. And then, as demand grows, both from those seeking a place to live and from investors looking for financial returns, the housing stock, especially in cities and urban areas, remains very limited. This imbalance leads to price surges, making homeownership and affordable renting increasingly out of reach. The supply of social housing is also very, very limited compared to the demand and the needs, and this exacerbates the problem. We need to find solutions. But we do not start from zero. We do not start from scratch. There are tools already. The Recovery and Resilience Facility, InvestEU, the cohesion funds, just to mention some of the tools that we have been using so far. They include funding for housing-related projects, recognizing the urgency of this issue. However, investment in affordable housing remains largely insufficient compared to the scale of the challenge that we are facing. So we need to ensure that these funds are allocated effectively and reach the communities that need them most, but also to make sure that we can increase the supply and this financial support. The European Investment Bank has expanded financing options for sustainable and social housing projects, and we welcome the launch of their housing platform. However, access to new and better framed funding is only part of the solution. As in all moments of crisis, it is also essential for us to understand how our legal framework can also accommodate innovative solutions to these problems and ensure that we fully leverage all regulatory instruments at our disposal. If the market has been derailed by new dynamics and it's not capable of fulfilling its primary function and its primary objective, maybe solutions should also involve better directing and optimizing our regulatory tools to restore balance and fairness in the housing market. So the European institutions are moving. That's why we are here today. The European Parliament established the Special Committee on the Housing Crisis with a clear and wide-ranging mandate. We are mapping housing needs, assessing the impact of speculation, evaluating the effectiveness of European funds, examining also the impact of other dynamics like short-term rentals, analyzing the dynamics of the construction sector. So, we are also pleased that the European Commission shares this sense of urgency. The creation of a dedicated housing task force is a strong and welcome step forward. Our two institutions, the Parliament and the Commission, must work hand in hand. Together, we can really build the foundations for a truly effective European affordable housing plan. Today, we are launching a dialogue that must include all voices, local and regional governments, housing providers, tenants associations, cooperatives, banks, construction companies, social services, researchers, but above all, citizens. They are the ones who are in the strongest need. So we need your insights, your experiences, your best practices, and yes, your criticisms too. So today, I really encourage all of you to participate actively in the sessions, to speak up, ask questions, and offer your ideas and your experiences. Let's use these opportunities to build momentum and to chart a path that restores housing as a cornerstone of European social progress. Housing is a pillar of economic stability and growth in the European Union. Addressing the housing crisis requires a comprehensive economic and social approach. If we fail to act, we risk further deepening economic disparities and undermining the very cohesion of our union, because everyone deserves a place to call home. So, thank you very much, welcome, and let's get started.
Colleagues, Madam Chair, I liked how you finished your introduction. Everybody deserves a place to call home. That I agree with. Today we are here in the house of and home of European democracy. And across Europe we have many words for our houses and our homes. Maison, casa, dome, or as in my home country, hus, to name just a few. These different words have the same meaning. A home means security, warmth, and shelter, a place for friends and family to come together, a place to live, or rather it should. But for many Europeans, that's not the case. For many Europeans, it means worry, it means death, it means crisis. For too many Europeans today, there is no place to call home. Last year, a report estimated that around 400,000 children in Europe are afflicted by homelessness. 400,000 children living on streets, sleeping in night shelters, staying in temporary accommodation. This is deeper than a crisis of supply and demand. It is really a crisis of morality, striking at the heart of Europe. And that is why we're here today. We are here because we need to deliver more affordable housing for Europe. In 2023, around 1 in 10 Europeans spent 40% or more of their disposable income on housing and related costs. The impact has spread to our nurses and our teachers, our police officers and our firefighters. These people enrich our lives, but increasingly they cannot afford a place to live. Young people cannot take up education opportunities, job offers, or to start a family because they do not have a place to live. We are here because we need to deliver more sustainable housing. In 2023, 47 million people in the EU could not afford to heat their homes. This is, of course, unacceptable. By helping European households to be more energy efficient, we not only lower the carbon footprint of our societies, we also reduce the costs of living for our citizens. And we are here because we need to deliver more decent housing. It is not just about increasing the quantity of European housing stock, it is also about quality. We need to invest in decent, accessible, and durable houses, well connected to local infrastructure, for health and education, services and resources, which provide the building blocks of communities and the foundations of our societies. We can draw inspiration from the new European Bauhaus, which promotes buildings that are sustainable, inclusive and enriching for their local environment. So, we know what we need to deliver, but how can we do it? Well, the work has already begun. The Commission has established a dedicated task force. The Parliament has established a special committee. Hand in hand, we're working with member states and local authorities to identify where Europe can bring added value. To address rules that act as bottlenecks and tackle issues like short-term rentals and speculation. To help member states increase supply of housings and make the most of the existing stock, to enhance cooperation and communication between national, regional, and local authorities. Furthermore, last month, we in the Commission launched our Affordable Energy Action Plan. This plan sets out how we can reinforce the security, sustainability, and affordability of our energy system by fast-tracking renewables, deepening our energy union, and improving fairness in gas markets as we decarbonize our economy. Specifically, our plan includes a number of concrete measures that will support households to cut their bills and take advantage of more energy-efficient appliances and renovations. Also, last month, we took our first step with the EIB towards a pan-European investment platform for sustainable and affordable housing. This platform will open new financing opportunities. At the same time, we will allow member states to double the planned cohesion policy investments in affordable housing. Today, we take another firm step. I am delighted to launch the Affordable Housing Dialogue here in the European Parliament alongside you, Madam Chair. The dialogue kickstarts 2025 as a year of engagement and outreach. Tomorrow, we will hear from industry at the High-Level Construction Forum, and over the rest of the year, we will host engagements on topics like short-term rentals, regulation and permitting, investments, homelessness, and housing for people with disabilities. I will also hold a youth dialogue on housing to discuss accommodation challenges for students and young people. We are soon launching calls for evidence and public consultations on state aids. As mentioned by Vice President Rivera at the Urban Forum last week, and also for the Affordable Housing Plan. I encourage you all to contribute. Preparations for our Affordable Housing Plan will be further strengthened by the establishment of a Housing Advisory Board, comprising of independent experts from different fields. For this, we will soon launch a call for applications. There's a term that carpenters use: measure twice, cut once. Well, let's talk twice, 3 times, many times, today, tomorrow, and right throughout the year, so that when we deliver our affordable housing plan for Europe, we do it right, and we do it with all Europeans on board. Honourable members, dear colleagues, today we are in the House of European Democracy, but the foundations of this house are rooted in homes across Europe, And if these homes are not stable and secure, then neither is our democracy. So let's work together to deliver affordable, sustainable, and decent housing for our citizens, to support the people who strengthen our communities, the teachers and nurses, the police officers and firefighters. Let's work to bring European democracy home, to every home, whether you call it a dom or a casa, a mansion or et hus. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start right away with our first panel. So let me just welcome our panelist, Mr. Borja Giménez Larraz, which is the rapporteur of the Special Committee on the Houses Crisis. Of course, Commissioner Jørgensen will remain here for this debate. Mr. Oliver Röpke, President of the European Economic and Social Committee. Andre Jadla, from the European Committee of the Regions, and then Giménez Vice President of the European Investment Bank. So thank you very much for being with us for this first panel. And now we start right away with the questions. So with the first round of 1 minute question from the coordinators of the Housing Committee or group representative, and 1 minute answers from the panelist. Please, I would encourage all the members to indicate to whom the question is directed, because this will make it easier for the debate. So let's start with the EPP. I give the floor to Nicolina Brunjak.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to bring into this conversation an element important for the portable housing debate, short-term rentals. And in 2023, almost 719 million guest nights were spent in accommodation booked via platforms in the European Union, on average almost 2 million guests each day. Significantly impacting our housing market and local communities in places like Barcelona, Lisbon, Athens, parts of Croatia, parts of Italy. Short-term rentals now make up a significant percentage of total housing stock in city centers, sometimes over 20%. And because of that, long-term rental availability is drastically shrinking and pushing local residents out. So I welcome the Commission's recent regulation on short-term rentals, which will enter into force in 2026. But for many of our citizens and cities, that is already too late. The damage is made and the prices are skyrocketing. So as the Commissioner Jørgensen mission letter rightly points out, we must tackle systematic issues with short-term accommodation rentals and the efficient use of existing housing stock. My question to the Commissioner Jørgensen is, how does the Commission foresee the implementation of the short-term rentals regulation impacting housing affordability? And do you expect it to help stabilize or to reduce prices in high-pressure areas? And if so, how? Because we need to be clear, unregulated short-term rentals are no longer just a tourism issue, they are a housing issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very relevant question. No doubt the short-term rentals has become a big problem in many cities across Europe. It is a complicated problem in the sense that it is very different from country to country, region to region, city to city, to which an extent this is actually considered a problem. So we have even countries where some parts of the country, they want more short-term rentals, they want more tourism. It's seen as a great opportunity for people to have an extra income so that they can maybe afford to live in a place where they couldn't afford to live either, if it hadn't been for these possibilities. And in the same countries, different cities have huge problems with over-tourism, with people being forced out of their homes, with whole city centers being basically just short-term rentals. So what we need to do is look into the toolbox and find solutions for the actual problem, which is a big problem, without, of course, hurting the possibilities for others to have the positive effects of short-term rentals. Now, we have set in place legislation in the past mandate that will be implemented now, as you mentioned. I do expect this to help national authorities and local authorities deal with these challenges, because it will provide transparency and the information that is necessary. On the other hand, I also want to be quite clear that I don't personally think that that will be enough. So I'm more than willing to look into other possibilities also of even legislating more if that is necessary from a European level. So I very much encourage the discussion on this, and thank you for the question. I'm sure we will have plenty of opportunities to go into more detail about what can then actually be done, what is necessary that we do on a European level in order to make it possible for national and local authorities to solve the problems that they face in this regard.
Yes, Mrs. Dadla wanted to add.
Thank you. As representative of committed region, I think the touristification, as we say in the committed region, this is a serious problem for the cities and region, especially in the capitals, of course, around of the Europe. And we pointed on this, in my opinion, about smart, sustainable housing in local and regional authorities, and same time right now in the ongoing opinion about by the mayor of Barcelona. You know, in the some cities, in the touristic season, the city centers go out for the housing from the living area. This is a huge problem. I think the message from the Commission and for the Parliament, we need here regulation. We need not only the local and national level, but we need here the regulation by the European level to have some common rules for the many, as you say, right, many of the real houses go out from the housing market about this business-oriented tourification of the city centers. This what Committee of the Region pointed on of the many of opinion what we have done about housing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Andreas Schieder for the S&D Group.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. My question would be dedicated to the Commissioner, but also to the Oliver Röpke, the President of the EESC, and maybe also to the European Investment Bank. As housing is not only a roof over the head, it is also a fundamental right. And what we see in the last years, especially all over Europe, not differing what system we have, that the prices are going up, that the demand is going up, and also the availability of affordable housing is going down. And when we speak about affordable housing, we have to say also affordable and quality housing, because sometimes the market has also a distortion on the quality. And also what we can do to keep people in security, that they know that also next year they can stay in their home and not prices are going up or their treaties are determined. So my question is, what can the European Union do to boost the construction of housing, to boost the availability of affordable housing, and what financial means we can mobilize for this aim?
Commissioner, you want?
Okay, I don't want to monopolize all of the speaking time, and I want to also hear my friend Oliver, but I do think it's a very, very important question, and I agree very much with the analysis that lies behind it. For the specific on the housing construction strategy and what that can do, I think it's necessary that we look at where we have rules and red tape that hinders the fast deployment of new housing being built. So one of these things is permitting, the complexity and the length of time for permitting. This is a problem that's been raised with me from a number of member states and local authorities. We also need better access to material inputs. This includes both more recycling and diversification of the possibility of getting these inputs. We need more technological innovation in building methods, and we need to be better at digitalizing our processes. We need to look at which obstacles are there now that hinders cross-border provision of services. And we also need to tackle the problem of the lack of skilled labor. This is, of course, something, all of these things are things that I will work very closely with my colleagues in the Commission about, especially, of course, the last one. My colleague Roxana is looking, as you know, on how to make sure that we have a skills union that really facilitates the upgrading of skills in all sectors, including the building sector. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. I think, first of all, a good signal is that we do not start from the scratch. I think we have all in the Parliament, but also in civil society in the ESC for years now. We have developed a lot of ideas and plans how to boost affordable housing also at European level, and how to give recommendations to build a framework for regional authorities, but also for member states. And therefore, we as ESC, we welcome very much that now we can really get this work started with this special committee and also with the start of this dialogue. We welcome this very much. Concretely, I think we should start with elaborating recommendations as soon as possible, concrete recommendations for member states, and to set a toolbox that can be used by member states. Some things were already mentioned. It could be a toolbox to curb out-of-control rent increases, including, for instance, statutory rent caps, but also fiscal incentives for renovating vacant residential home in view of renting them, more social housing, and to learn from national and regional examples. And I know Andy, coming from Vienna, I think it's not that one size fits all, but I think there are a lot of ideas that we can use. I also agree that, and we in the ESC, we agree that in the medium term, the fundamental right to affordable, decent housing for everybody should be enshrined in EU primary law, but we should now start with concrete proposals. And when it comes to the investments, we in the ESC, we call really for greater scope for long-term public and private investment, and for public policies to optimize EU resources supporting decent housing for all. And in this respect, we call also on the Commission to, not on the Commission only, but we welcome this pan-European investment platform for affordable and sustainable housing. And we think that non-profit property developers, cooperatives, as well as local authorities should be able to obtain low interest rates via this platform, if possible even 0% interest rates, to boost this affordable housing. And I agree, it's not only affordable housing, it's also a decent housing. This we need. And let me add one point, because it's also an increasing problem, especially for young people. We can see this in the last Eurobarometer survey. It's even a more pressing issue for young people at the moment. So I think the action plan should have a special and focused element for young people. We are talking about the challenges of the demographic development, but we see that this would be a very, very practical element to increase, or to I would say, to improve our demographic development in the medium term, because we can see that for the people between 20 and 25 years, this question, more affordable housing, would also increase the fertility rate by 30%. So this shows that apart from great speeches, I think improvement of living and working conditions is the best way. Thank you.
Mr. Tsakiris.
Thank you very much. I was covered by the answers of the other members of the panel. I just wanted to add another dimension in what Mr. Seider said. and that it's not only about that housing is a right. I would like to connect this situation with the competitiveness of Europe discussion that is taking place a lot. High housing prices, increased cost is also an impediment when it comes to competitiveness. So it's another issue which also concerns us as European Investment Bank when it comes to the competitiveness of the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Alessandro Ciriani for ECR.
Thank you, Chair. I will speak in Italian. Commissario Jørgensen.
Commissioner Jørgensen, you touched upon a crucial aspect, which is the fact that the European Commission needs to coordinate matters with local and regional entities, because they're the ones who are responsible for housing policy. But there are insurmountable obstacles that they face, a lot of bureaucracy and difficulty in accessing European funds. There was a recent Commission initiative to set up a pan-European investment platform together with the EIB, and that provides a significant opportunity. How can we make sure that local and regional authorities are involved in an organic way and can benefit from that? Now, there's also the housing portal that's been launched, but what kind of guarantees are there that the resources will be put towards areas where the situation is most critical? Then, in closing, let me say that we do need a public and social approach so that abandoned and old housing can be regenerated. Would you agree with that assessment?
This is like a déjà vu. It feels like I'm back in the hearing. And, I will say all of your questions are very, very good, and I acknowledge the validity of them, and I will also answer them as good as I can. But I will also ask you to remember that today is the start of a dialogue where we discuss with each other what to do and where we find the solutions together. So see this also as an opportunity for you, members of parliament, and with all of the contacts that you have, all of the civil society, I see many of them here today, to give us your input. And one of the areas where we do need the input is the one that you asked. How do we make sure that the EU funding that we have access to actually makes a difference? Because if we look at it, I have a whole list here in front of me of different opportunities: recovery and resilience plans, European Regional Development Fund, Invest EU, European Social Fund, Social Climate Fund, and so on and so on. We have actually a lot of places where we give billions, and they do make a positive difference, so I'm not neglecting the importance of this. But what I think we need is a more targeted approach with regards to funding, because we need investments of such a huge amount that whatever public money, whether it's EU money or national money or regional money is in there, that can only be a fraction. So how do we then use that fraction to make sure that we get all of the investments that we need? And how do we make sure that we use the public money where private money will not go, so to speak, where it makes a real extra difference? And one of the things you mentioned is the Pan-European Investment Platform that we're now working with the EIB to develop. Here we very much condole and welcome input. We're working on it now. First step was to put forward a platform, as we did 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you've seen it. Next step is, of course, analyzing and developing what exactly should the model look like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if the other panelists want to add something. Maybe Mr. Jadla, you wanted to add something? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. As Commissioner said, this is the place of discussion, and of course, we in Committee in the Region, we discussing about these funding opportunities, and of course our focus is cohesion policy, future, what's going on. And of course, in the table we are discussing in the Committee of the Region is the future of the social climate funds, and maybe it's good idea to use this like 50% of the social climate funds money to add to the cohesion funds to keep more direct for housing, or we must really combine this public money with private money. We already was some couple of weeks ago in Luxembourg in the European Investment Bank Forum. We discussed there how we as local authorities can use this European money to combining this in local level with maybe some regional bank, we have strong regional banks in Germany, or some other financial institution. I think here is one of the key question, how we can really combine all these possible financial things and be useful in the regional and local level too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Charan Maloli for Renew.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this afternoon's session. I'm glad to see such a high-level representative group here today, and I look forward to the discussion this afternoon. However, I think I want to follow up on what the Commissioner just said in terms of what we can do. There definitely is a sense of déjà vu. We list the 40 problems again today, and when do we start prioritising? And I want to just focus maybe not on 40 issues, but maybe just on 2, Commissioner, that you could prioritise immediately. And I would ask for you, in the very short term, today, to start to try and improve the supply of housing by doing one thing, to start to review our state aid rules in the European Commission. This is a problem, unnecessarily holding back investment in all our member states. We know this. We need further investment. You talked about that small percentage of the EU money. You're right. We need public investment, private investment, and we need to do that. So we need you to look at that area specifically. And we want to find out what's really driving up the demand around our countries, around the member states. And there's one area that annoys everybody, and that is the issue in the situation where vulture funds are coming into our countries and buying up properties, drying up the supply and driving up prices. And again, I say to you, this is an area that you can do something about in the short term. In my own country, finance companies such as Pepper have been named in court proceedings. They come in driving up the cost of houses, driving up the cost of mortgages. New schemes, they wipe them out. They take the houses from the grasp of young couples who are trying to buy for the first time. I've seen it myself in my own constituency in Ireland, in County Meath and County Kildare and County Laois outside the commuter belt of Dublin. I ask you what you can do about it. You can go back and revisit the EU directive on credit servicers and credit purchasers. You know this, it was called the Vulture Funds Directive. It was passed back in 2021. I ask you to reopen it, go back and regulate the vulture funds, regulate them out of this market. There are multiple examples of mortgages being bought from banks around our state, and interest rates are increasing without warning. Chair, we must have clarity in which of these vulture funds are entering our territories, and we must ensure that practices like the one I've outlined today that have been outlined in court proceedings are dealt with. We must get aggressive with them if we're going to make a real difference.
Yes, Commissioner.
That's a very good speech, and it was both with a lot of pathos, and it was also very clear and pointed. And so that's perfect. I really appreciate it. On the state aid, you are very right, and we are working on it. We're not only looking at it, we're working on it as we speak. So we have already started. When I say we, it's of course me and Executive Vice President Rivera, responsible for state aid rules. It's not as simple as it sounds, but that shouldn't sound as an excuse for not doing anything. We will do something, and we will solve the problems that have been pointed to. But we need to make sure that we do it in a way, of course, so that we don't ruin anything, throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. But we will do something about this. On the speculation and the financialization of this area, this is a complex matter, and there's a lot of interests at play, goes without saying. but that we will also look at. The directives that you mentioned are certainly a place to start, but I will of course also talk to my relevant colleagues in the Commission on a holistic view, overall view on what we can do. We have set up a working group in the Commission with a big group of relevant commissioners that will meet very soon for the first time to make sure that it's just not me running with my agendas and different commissioners running with their agendas, but that we actually have a coordinated task force to make sure that something will happen here. So thank you for that.
Please, Mrs. Röpke.
Thank you. Very, very short. I agree that, and we in the ESC, we agree that revising state aid rules to better align with the regulation of services of general economic interest will help to ensure that housing policies are inclusive and targeted at those who need them the most. So we agree that here is definitely something to do. And once again, in the ESC, we also say that the EU should support the establishment of the mentioned funding platforms like the Pan-European Investment Platform. We think also that we advocate that for the inclusion of housing indicators in national reform programs, which will help track progress and ensure that housing solutions are meeting the needs of the most vulnerable. And in general, I think this is now a starting process. I think the involvement, permanent involvement of social partners and civil society is also key. We also ask for this annual summit where we can bring together the many of the stakeholders. And I think this is something which should be respected in the next month, that we have really an inclusive and powerful strategy with the involvement of all stakeholders, including social partners, but also cooperatives and other important stakeholders that are actually gathered here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now give the floor to Gordon Bozanach for the Greens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's a really great day today that we are opening this wide European debate on housing, but we should not forget that is also the crisis situation. So my question to all of you is, what can we do in 2026? In a sense, can we also expect to do something very concrete in terms of legislative files to come in this House and try to do some changes? Because if we are following the parallel crisis which is going on defense and security, we are seeing very concrete actions. We are seeing announcement of very concrete legislative files. So if there is Rearm Europe coming to this House, why the Rehouse Europe will not come to this House as soon as possible? Because some things can be done very fast. Maybe we can have affordable housing not to be subject to the debt rules set out in the fiscal rules of Stability and Growth Pact, as we are talking in the defense sector. So my question for each of you is, if we can dream about legislative file, Rehouse Europe, which is coming to this House in 3 months, what can you see that can be put in this file? Very concretely, what can we do in 2026? 5, sorry. Thank you.
So this is it's a bit of a difficult question to answer, because on one hand, you've just set up a temporary committee to give us recommendations on what to do. Now, I used to be a member of this House for 10 years, you know. And if I had set up a committee to give recommendations to the Commission, and the Commission did not wait and listen for that Commission, for those recommendations, I would be pretty upset, as I expect many of you will. So, on one hand, we need to respect that process, and today is also a start of an even broader process where we listen to each other. On the other hand, I do like your impatience, because I share it. And we also need to make sure that just because we've started a dialogue, that we don't then just lean back and wait till that dialogue is done. And there are indeed things that we can do also on a shorter term. So for instance, the question on state aid rules, we don't have to wait for years of dialogue to know that we have a problem here. Then there's things that falls in between. I'd say that we don't need to wait 1 year to find out that there's a problem with short-term rentals. On the other hand, we do have legislation that's going to be implemented now, and we need to see how will that also work. And also, to be quite frank, I don't have the solutions just there in front of me. So that's one of the areas where I will really need the input to make sure that we actually do this in a rational way. But I can give you my word that I will try and strike that balance, both be respectful of the process, not just for the process' sake, but because I think it will make the decisions that we make better. But on the other hand, also when we can identify action that can be done now, because it should be done now, we shouldn't wait. We will do that right away.
Okay, so now I give the floor to Leila Chaibi for the left.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question, I'll be speaking French, by the way. My question is not addressed to Commissioner Jørgensen, but for Mr. Giménez Larraz, who we haven't heard from yet, and who will have a heavy responsibility because you will be the rapporteur for the Special Committee on Housing. So you will have to coordinate all of the work, which will lead to the position from the Special Committee on Housing and will be addressed to the Commission. And as you see, there is this tension between the right to affordable housing for everyone and people investing in housing. And there's the development of tourism on the one hand, and you've got the short-term rental contracts, and on the other hand, again, affordable housing. And as the EPP coordinator stated earlier, and I welcome what was said, there's a consensus on that, I think, amongst us, and that is that short-term rentals do make it more difficult to have access to housing. It leads to gentrification, rents and rent prices increase. So, Mr. Giménez Larraz, in the report on housing on behalf of the Special Committee, is that something you'll be defending, or is the solution to this problem that we should have new European regulation to have a framework for the use of short-term rental platforms? So that's my first question, if I could invite a comment from you on that. My second question ties in with the title of this panel, Working Together, it says. Could you guarantee then that all political groups, all democratic political groups from our House will be fully involved in these negotiations? And the cordon sanitaire, the firewall, will that be upheld when you prepare the report? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. So, first of all, I just want to say that for me it is going to be an honor to be the rapporteur of this Housing Committee, and the idea is that this has to be a comprehensive report that has to serve as a base for the work of the rest of the European institutions. So in that sense, my objective is to establish a rich debate with all the political groups. That is completely clear, because I really believe that if we want to offer a solid position and a rigorous position, it is necessary to reach a large majority in this Parliament to go to the European Commission with a strong message. I know that it's going to be quite complicated, but in from my position, it's going to be to work from a very inclusive perspective and to try to reach the larger agreement. Regarding the other question to the tourism, I am Spanish, so you will know that for us this is a really important problem in Spain, in many cities. And it is true that in each city, each mayor is taking different strategies to face this this phenomenon, but I really believe that we should try to find a common ground between the different positions, because I really believe that it is necessary to do anything, at least maybe just, I don't know, this is a very previous moment, but to establish any limits in the cities, something. But I really believe that it is necessary to do anything also from our perspective, but we will have to talk a lot about it.
Okay, now we can move to the next round. And this is, we have a list of requests. We start with Dirk Gottinger for the EPP. I will group because we have several requests, so otherwise we will not have time to do all the answers. So please be very, very short.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, panel. Very interesting exchange. We've full support for the questions on the state aid. I will not repeat it. As you know, there was a lot of talk about money, but I think there is also a big sort of elephant in the room, which is the bottleneck of regulation and complexity of regulation, which has to do with permitting and the way sort of European legislation exponentially sort of works down the food chain to the ground and actually blocks building projects on the ground. Now you've made proposals on large energy projects, I believe, when it comes to the permitting, the length of the permitting procedures. Now it depends very much if member states have specific legislation in place to sort of limit those permitting procedures. Is it something we can expect in terms of an approach for everything that has to do with building, because this is a massive bottleneck. It has nothing to do with money. There are people there with money, there are builders there ready to build, and there's just a lot of rules protecting many times environmental concerns, which are also very important. But at this point, I think building houses has become simply a much bigger urgency. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Certainly permitting is one of the main areas that we will be looking at. I very much agree with you that, of course, this is not something that we will do on the expense of our nature or environment. We need to take care of that. But just as we are now in the process of doing it with regards to energy projects, it is my clear impression that there will be room to rationalize that. These procedures. The energy question has been discussed for so many years that we knew more or less where the problems were, so therefore it was not easy, but easier to put forward a proposal on what to do. I'm not saying that's not controversial, and we will have discussions on that, and I'm also, of course, willing to take them. On housing, it's not that clear exactly which rules we're talking about, but we are in the process of looking into it, and I have already gotten also some good input from different member states. One of the big problems is how long it takes. So, I mean, imagine if it takes 5 years to get a permission, and you do get that permission. If you get the permission, it means that there is not a problem. So why did it have to take 5 years? Sometimes there's good reasons for that, because you need to look into things that are extremely complicated. But I'm also assuming that a lot of it has to do with the lack of focus and too much red tape. So thank you again for raising it. I know that many of you in this house are very committed to that specific question, so we will keep discussing it and finding solutions.
Thank you very much. Gabi Bischoff, SND.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I will take on the impatience that a lot of my colleagues from different groups raised. We need tangible and fast solutions. We don't have all the time of the world. So 2 questions. One, from your experience in the different fields, where would we have the fastest and biggest impact when we address it? And my second is, I'm getting really impatient because, you know, we are bombarded at the moment with omnibuses of different sorts because of competitiveness for companies. I want that the needs of citizens that are looking for houses are taken as serious as that. And you heard it from the different groups, state aid rules, short-term rentals, vulture funds. We know where the problems are. We need to deliver much faster. Thank you.
Well, I think I have answered that a few times. Maybe we should ask the rapporteur, what kind of solutions should I just do now instead of waiting for your report?
Thank you for your question. From our side, from our point of view, from the European Investment Bank, what we have seen during our market survey is some quick wins. Obviously, is the renovation and the retrofitting, even sometimes repurposing of existing buildings, and this can be done very quickly. And then, obviously, also state aid, which is a work in progress with the Commission, I can confirm, because at service level we have also provided input how it can help increase the building activity. So this is what I would say as a quick wins. And then, of course, we need absolutely to move into construction of new units, as we have seen that the market gap, so the difference in demand and supply per year, is about 1 million units. So you can imagine that every year this is accumulating. So we also need to move into the financing of construction of new units. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very quickly.
Okay, from the position of the committee of the region, of course, the planning is our direct responsibility, how we can plan the housing area to build quick. And the second one, I totally support the next quick things is renovation, continue the renovation wave. And of course, we must relate that the security and the housing too. This is, we must think if we could say home is my castle, but this really this castle right now in this situation, here we must combine these policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will really need to group the next three questions and then we stop. So Daniel Buda for the EPP, and after Nora Mebarek for SND, and then Isabelle Korenek for EPP, and then we have to stop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner and distinguished panelists, I have no questions for you because I have recommendations that I would like you to hear so that we can solve these problems, because people sitting at the back of this room and people watching us over the internet are waiting for solutions. And we are just taking stock of the situation. We need to have adequate financing for houses that we need to build. We also need to streamline proceedings, because it is not enough to allocate financial resources without simplified procedures. The colleague from the European Investment Bank could help solve this. And now I talk to the Committee of the Regions. We need to simplify permitting procedures, because we have often heard complaints about this. Beneficiaries have to wait for very long periods in order to obtain permits to be able to build. And for ESC, indeed, we need your help to solve this as quick as possible, because otherwise, us at the EP and the Commission keep talking, but we need a clear calendar and with a starting point and an end point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nora Mebarek.
Je vais parler en français. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
I'll speak French. Thank you, Chair. My question will be a brief one, because as ever, everything has already been said. We've all expressed just how pressing this issue is. A decent home for all. This needs money. Fair enough. But we've heard from the Commission that we're in the midterm revision of the cohesion funds next week. The legal basis of the EFRD will be modified. And that's a first initial step, yes. But I was wondering whether, as part of the investment platform, announced by President von der Leyen. Perhaps this would include innovative measures. For example, the Caisse de dépôt and the EIB had been working together and mobilized 500 million euros for French social housing on an annual basis. And this is, I think this was a great experience, and perhaps this could be expanded on a European level.
Beaucoup, Isabelle
Callennec. Merci, Présidente. Moi, j'ai deux.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions to the representatives of the EIB on the pan-European investment financing platform. For several months now, we've heard that this will be set up, so we're very impatient to see what it will consist of, what financial headings will be included, what the priorities will be. I heard renovation, for example. What will who the beneficiaries be? Private, public? What will the rates be? How long the loans will be granted for? And then we need complementary measures as well, because national or regional banks and member states are all very different indeed and very different setup. Thank you.
Who wants to start? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Indeed, 2 weeks ago, together with President of the European Bank, Nadia Calvino, and Commissioner Jørgensen, we launched the More Homes and Better Homes portal. So it's not yet a platform, it's a portal. We start from there. And this is an online investment portal that connects beneficiaries with advice, funding, and financing they possibly need for affordable housing. And we already have the first requests. So, I mean, something which is obvious is that it's a huge demand. At the same time, in the European Investment Bank Group, we are preparing an action plan for affordable, sustainable housing, which we anticipate that it will be approved in a few weeks from our board of directors. So this action plan is built on consultations over more than 9 months with all housing stakeholders. And I want also to thank all the presence here, particularly the Committee of the Region, Housing Europe, etc., that have given us feedback. So with this action plan, we are putting us into action. Our aim is to double our financing for the housing sector, unlocking also a significant amount of money for new homes, renovation, and innovative housing solutions. So there, as you also have asked, what are the key priorities? There are 3 actually. It's to increase the scale and impact of renovation, repurposing, and retrofitting. So we hope that we can get, according to our estimates, 1.5 million of units across Europe by 2030. Then, again, strengthening the support for public investments tailored to specific needs of each country, particularly working together with national promotional institutions. So, let's say, multiplying our firing power. And also expanding our reach, focusing on EU countries with the most severe housing crisis and less developed systems. So we're also prioritize and see how we can, because as we said, the problem is huge. We need to prioritize and see how we can attack, let's say, segments that really need immediate attention. Again, there are several personal examples. I'm coming from Greece. I can reassure you that in these fantastic Greek islands that most of you are visiting during summer, you know, communities cannot work because firefighters, teachers, doctors, nurses cannot afford to go there and rent a house. And of course, another priority segment is the student. And as I said at the beginning, it has to do with the competitiveness of the European Union. So that's more or less our plan.
Mrs. Jadla.
Thank you very much. And I heard here in many people need more concrete results. And in the committee region, we have like three-step partnership solutions for those. First of all, we think in the local level. The solution is to work together with housing providers, with cooperative, public sector, private sector, who is really build new houses. The second one is partnership between institutions, like we sitting here in podium, between institution, national level, Parliament level, Commission level. We really read regulation to simplify all these processes. And third one, I think very important, this is public-private partnership. We have already started this, representative of the European Investment Bank, Vice President, or we already need to work together, and this is the position of Committee of the Region. We, as local leaders, we are ready for that the quick change in the housing, if we can have these results so quick as possible.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, Mr. Röpke, and then we have to stop.
Yes, thank you very much. Very quickly, thank you for the remark. I just can say that we stand absolutely ready, not only to advise and to work with this committee, but we work also very closely with the upcoming presidency. And the Danish presidency tasked us with an exploratory opinion on the upcoming affordable housing plan. And I'm grateful that Commissioner Jørgensen will come, and we will explore there our proposals to have really tangible results. I said it must work really in the short term, and once again we must also focus on the most vulnerable, on young people. I think this is absolutely important, because otherwise inequalities will be even deepened by this. So we have to take action, and we have a lot of opinions, and we will work in the next weeks and months on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everybody. Now we take a 10 minutes break and we resume. No?